So you're talking about how identities will get stuck and then they get on automatic and then you're doing them at inappropriate times. Well, a lot of these things are like people just don't even realize when they're happening. They just happen and then suddenly they're, like you said, hitting the wife or yelling at the kids or doing something that you wonder, you don't want to do, but they keep popping up. So how do you get these identities unstuck?
Well, that's by looking. Okay? That's by looking. I'll give you a little bit of better explanation of that. How does looking? How does just noticing and looking? How would you do that?
Okay.
Okay. Well, these identities, these ways of being, these whole packages of rules and laws of how to be. When one is in these identities, they're assuming what we call the viewpoint of that identity. And by viewpoint, I just simply mean, there's a lot of definitions of viewpoint, like opinion and so on. But when I mention viewpoint in connection with an identity, I'm talking about simply a point from which one perceives. That's a viewpoint.
Okay.
And these viewpoints and the viewpoint of this identity and the identity themselves, they're all limited, right? Like it's limited to where it's good in
Okay.
battle, but it's not good. Like in the armor
Oh,
example,
I see
it's
what you
good
mean.
in
Sure.
battle, but it's not good in swimming or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
The anger identity, it's good in battle in a war, but it's not good when you're dealing with your wife and kids. That sort of thing.
Right.
But it's but it has its uses. But every one of them has its limitations, and it's the same for these things called it's simply to understand a viewpoint is a point from which one perceives has its limitations. Like for instance, you're sitting in a chair and you're looking at a wall, okay? And let's just say there's something on that other side of the wall that you need to see for your eyes only. There's some answer there, which is what we're talking about at the beginning,
Hmm.
your own answers. We'll say it's on the other side of that wall, but from that viewpoint in the chair, it doesn't see through walls or around corners. It's limited.
Okay.
So as much as you stare at that wall from that viewpoint, you
Hmm.
can't see what's on the other side of the wall. And everything other people are telling you about what's on the other side of their walls and what you should see, it's all irrelevant because it's for your eyes only. So
Hmm.
what to do? Well, you got to shift to a different viewpoint, which means get up out of the chair, walk around to the other side, and thereby shift to an appropriate viewpoint in order to inspect that information.
Hmm.
That's
Okay.
it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's as simple as it is. But if one's stuck in the chair and doesn't even know they're stuck, they could be there forever
Mm.
and never be able to see that stuff. Well, you say, well, then, okay, I understand it in terms of that, but what do you mean by appropriate viewpoint when it comes to these conditions and so on? How does it work with that?
Hmm.
Exactly. That's very interesting. And if you want, I can kind of go into that for a moment, okay, because it's a little bit different subject.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But it goes along with it.
Well, let
Like,
me let me ask you a question here to try to relate this to your earlier example. So, like for instance, the knight with the armor on,
yeah,
the wall that he's in front of is involved in the battle. So,
right.
if he gets out of his if he shifts the viewpoint enough to see what's going on, he can see that this coat of armor is just something that he uses when he wants to face this battle, and that he needs to, but he could get rid of it if he wants to go swimming. Does that sort of follow?
Sort of, sort of. Because remember, it all goes back to something stuck on automatic.
Right.
Okay. Because he's just in it. Okay. And he's always looking from the viewpoint of a knight,
Right.
not from the viewpoint of a swimmer.
Of a swimmer.
Okay.
Right.
Now, when it's a little closer to home for people, it might be a little bit more understandable about
Hmm.
this. Is that when a person comes to me and they have some issue that they don't
Hmm.
like, they are in a viewpoint that doesn't like it, that wants to get rid of it. Okay, always, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't even show up. Why would they be there if it wasn't a problem? So
True.
this is what we would call a catch-22. In other
Mhm.
words, they're in this viewpoint that wants to handle this condition,
Right.
obviously.
Okay.
But the viewpoint they need to be in, which is they're like say that's in the chair. What's the other side of the wall?
Right.
The other side of the wall is the viewpoint of the condition. For instance, okay, I'll give you a silly example. You
Yeah.
plug in whatever you want. Is that, let's say a guy comes to me and says, I have this unwanted condition of being a dog. I become a dog and I hate it.
Okay.
I want to get rid of that. It's terrible. Right. Okay. Well, right now, he can't see anything beyond. He wants to get rid of it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be there, right? So what I'm going to try to do is get him into the viewpoint of the dog and look through those eyes, and then get him to look from that viewpoint. Because we talk about how important it is to look and notice what's there, but it depends on what viewpoint you're looking from.
Sure.
Right? That's the other part of this.
Right. Yeah.
So I want him in the viewpoint that he needs to be in order to see all those rules and laws is the viewpoint of the condition, which he's not in. So I say, I want you to be in the viewpoint of the dog and look through those eyes and answer my questions. So say I ask him a question like, from that viewpoint of the dog, what must be continued while you're in that viewpoint? What must be continued, kept going? Well, when I'm that way, I must continue to lick people's hands when I greet them. I must continue to chase fire engines. I must continue to pee on fire hydrants. You follow? All right?
Sure.
Right? Those are the rules and laws.
Okay.
Now, if he's in the viewpoint he comes into session with is, I hate that condition, and I ask him this very same question, I would get different answers. I say, what must be continued? Well, I must continue to find ways of getting rid of this horrible condition.
Right.
I must chain myself up at night so I don't chase cars. Different viewpoint, different answers.
Right.
Okay? So that's really what we're talking about. It's like these are parts of the mechanics, the questions, and the way we ask them in Idenics. But that's what you're shooting for, is to get it off automatic. And sometimes this guy in all of the therapy he was ever in, he might not have ever been out of the viewpoint that wanted to get rid of it.
True.
He answered from I shouldn't do this, and it stays stuck forever. Get him on the other side of the wall, and then he's seeing stuff.
Oh, interesting. Wow,
See?
that's really cool.
Different viewpoint, different answers, but they're all limited. And the interesting thing about all this is the guy isn't limited. Just the viewpoints and identities that person assumes are limited. He can, if the person can move in and out of them at will, what's the problem with that? You know. So when people put judgment on, oh, this is terrible, this is bad, how could you ever want it? It's not bad. It's just whether it's appropriate or not.